It's the dead of winter, folks, and we're back with a cabbage episode. Welcome back to How to Make Dinner. It's been a couple weeks. Nice to see you again. Thanks so much for joining me to talk about cabbage, one of my favorites. Specifically today we're going to talk about roasted cabbage, which is kind of a semi-new one for me. It was actually an idea that came from my uncle, Uncle Colin. If you're watching, thanks for the suggestion. And it's just so great. Like, we talk about roasting Brussels sprouts and broccoli and cauliflower all the time. Why not roasting cabbage? So I'm going to make it a few different ways and it should be pretty good. Before I get into it though, if you enjoy this show, I would love it if you would subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're liking this episode, please hit the like button, because all of those little things just help me out so much and they help more people see this show. So much appreciated. All right, cabbage time. Starting with the most basic version, we're just going to do a simple roasted cabbage. So this is a Savoy cabbage, which I really like. And you can cut it in any which way you want, but for this one I'm going to do wedges. So look at the inside of that. Oh, it's so good. So I'm just going to cut it directly in half and then into quarters, and then I think I'll do thirds from here. And you do kind of want to keep the core intact because it'll help hold it together. Okay, that was a bad cutting job. Let's try that again. Think it this way, then I can be sure to get lots of core in each one. The thinner bits will get a little bit more cooked and more crispy. The thicker bits will be a bit more like just kind of tender and melty. So plain and simple, I'm just gonna pile this cabbage onto a baking sheet, drizzle it with some olive oil, and sprinkle it with some salt, and crack some pepper too. This is all you really have to do to roast cabbage. Little oil, little salt, little pepper. And then I'm going to put this into the oven, which has been preheated to 450. So you really need a ripping hot oven. And that's going to take about 25 to 30 minutes. The next version of roasted cabbage we're going to make is more of like a one tray wonder kind of sheet pan dinner. And I think I'll stick with wedges again for this one. Same routine as before. But it's going to just be a little bit more exciting seasoning wise. Anyone who's judging me for cutting this awkwardly, it's just an awkward thing to cut, alright? Oh, spinning around. If your cutting board is moving around, do something about it. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, and then once this is in wedges, and the core is doing its very best at holding the wedges together, doesn't really matter. They're going to fall apart, and that's kind of okay. And I have 4 bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs here. I actually looked for the leg and thigh attached. I feel like I don't see that in the store anymore, and I don't really know why. But any chicken pieces with the bone in and the skin on will do. And I'm just gonna actually kind of make a little dressing for all of this, but I'm gonna toss it separately so that the cabbage doesn't get too mashed up. So starting with the chicken, I'm gonna dump in a bunch of olive oil, like quite a bit. Whoa. And I have some sherry vinegar that I love, and I want this chicken and cabbage to be pretty vinegary. Oh, I haven't had sherry vinegar in a while. It's weirdly hard to find where we live, but this is like, that's probably 50-50 sherry vinegar and oil. And then I'm going to put in a really aggressive pinch of salt, 2 pinches of salt. And I think that's it, actually. So I'm just going to toss that around and coat it nicely. And then I'm going to lay those chicken thighs out on a baking sheet. And then seeing as there's plenty of this vinegary oily mixture left, I'll just put the cabbage into the same bowl and use that to soak up all the rest of it. It soaks up a surprising amount because it really gets into all the different little layers. And you do want this to be pretty spaced out on the tray, so you don't want things to be overlapping. So move things around if you need to. And if you're worried about all these little bits that are falling off, don't be, because they get extra crispy and really good. I'm just gonna dump whatever's left from the marinade on to the cabbage and the chicken. Just because I can't resist, I might crack a little bit of pepper over it. It's just a bit of a compulsion at this point. And then this is going in the oven for probably more like 30 to 35 minutes because I like chicken thighs to be well cooked. They get even juicier the longer they cook, to a point. So in they go. While all that's in the oven, I wanted to tell you about some roasted cabbage I made earlier today. This was a really good one. All I did was take a whole green cabbage, just a regular green cabbage this time, and cut it into about 1-inch slices. So pretty much like steaks, we're calling them steaks, roasted cabbage steaks. And then I took my very favorite nutritional yeast dressing, which I believe I talked about in the nutritional yeast video, but I'll link that below just in case. And I drizzled the steaks with this dressing and just kind of brushed it on, and then roasted them the same way as these other ones for 25 to 30 minutes at 450. It's gonna be 450 or 425. It depends on your oven. Everyone's oven's different. And they were so nice. And then all I did was the usual routine for like a weekend brunchy, lunchy moment, which was put a fried egg on top, sprinkle it with some green onions, and quite a bit of my very favorite chili crisp. It's like Calabrian chili crisp. I just bought a second jar of it today because I'm so into it. And it was so good. Cabbage steak, nutritional yeasty, salty, fried egg, spicy chili crisp. So good. I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, Paula, that's great. And I love cabbage too, and I love roasted cabbage, and I'm gonna definitely make all these recipes, but I'm only one person or two people. What are we gonna do with all this leftover cabbage? You're gonna use it just like you would any kind of coleslaw. It's basically a roasted salad at this point. So I'm gonna take a regular old bun, and I'm gonna treat this leftover roasted cabbage like coleslaw. I'm gonna take a generous slathering of my homemade mayo. A good amount of mayo is always nice. And then I'm gonna put a whole big pile of pulled pork on top. I actually got this pulled pork from a barbecue place in town today because I didn't want to make it just for the purposes of this video, but it's great. Most barbecue places you can just go and order it by the pound or the half pound kind of deal. A little bit of their barbecue sauce that they were nice enough to include for me. Thanks, Jones Barbecue, if you're watching. This is one of my leftover cabbage steaks I made earlier with the nutritional yeast dressing. And I'm just gonna slice it up. I won't need all of it, but I can make a few sandwiches out of this. And just pile it on top. How's that? I'm feeling it. Are you feeling it? If you're feeling this pulled pork with roasted cabbage makeshift slaw sandwich, let me know in the comments. And if you're not feeling the whole pulled pork sandwich thing, you could definitely just make it into a regular salad, like a roasted slaw. Have it as a side dish with whatever you're eating. Yum. Our cabbage is ready. This is the first batch, the plain and simple salt, pepper, oil thing, and it looks great. I mean, I'm not really gonna do anything with this. I'm just gonna tell you it looks great. Maybe have a bite. This is like a chewy potato chip made out of cabbage. This is that sherry vinegar, sticky, oily chicken thigh thing. Look at this. Okay, so we've got a one pan wonder here. We've got roasted cabbage, we've got chicken thighs. I did think it would be kind of nice to do a little bit of a saucy kind of drizzle for this one. So I'm just gonna move this to the side for a sec. I have a little bowl here with some minced garlic and some chopped up capers and some finely chopped red onion. And I'm just gonna make a little like dressing, I guess it's a dressing salsa kind of thing. So that was about a tablespoon of olive oil, and then I'm just gonna stay classic with the sherry vinegar and dump a bunch of that in there too, just to be consistent with the flavor, and a good pinch of salt. This is the kind of thing that I'm addicted to, like anything oniony and capery, salty, briny, vinegary, like my mouth is watering just saying those words, and probably the smell of the vinegar coming up is like, it makes me lose my shit. This kind of food, I love it. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a little spoonful of this on each of the little items here. Look how nice. I mean, I guess I'm kind of destroying the crispy skin, but whatever, it's worth it. We're done. I'm just gonna stick a little bit of this on a plate so I can have a bite. This one looks like it has my name on it. I mean, that's a lovely dinner. I would probably eat like half of this tray, but, and then you know, just a little more of this stuff on top. So what happens to chicken thighs when they cook for a long time is the fat really renders out of the skin, and that makes the chicken meat more juicy, and it makes the skin kind of have that thin, shattering kind of glass feel. When I'm talking about chicken thighs, especially with the bone in, I'm never gonna recommend that you cook them to just done. Like 170 degrees is when they're technically safe to eat, or like 165, but take it to 170 and then take it like way further, like another 15 minutes. I like to roast chicken thighs at full blast, like 425, 450 for like up to 45 minutes. And that seems like a long time, but trust me, they're delicious. They just are. That's the way to do it with the cabbage. The vinegar just seeps right in there. And like every layer has this salty, vinegary. Ooh, I really like that. I felt a bit weird not biting into this pulled pork sandwich, so I guess I'll do that. This isn't like one of those eating channels, but you know, I want to prove that it's good, right? This probably could have used a bit more mayo and maybe a handful of pickles, but That's great. That's it for this week. I hope you liked the cabbage episode. I'm sure there'll be more cabbage episodes in our future, so don't worry. If you did like this episode, I'd love it if you'd give it a like. And if you're not subscribed, I'd love it if you would change that ASAP, because this is fun, right? You get to hang out with me in my kitchen and I get to talk to somebody while I'm cooking. It's awesome. So we'll see you next week with a whole new cozy something. I don't know what yet.